Hi everyone, this is my unboxing and first impressions of Napoleon's Eagles, the 100 Days from Compass Games. I reviewed the first game in this series. This is the second game. The first game covering the battles of Borodino and Leipzig. This one is the 100 Days campaign. So Waterloo, basically. We've got Quatre Bras, Ligny, Wavre, and Waterloo itself. It is a card game from Compass Games. I was a big fan of the first game and I enjoyed it very much. There is a review on my channel which I'll post the link to. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what's in this game, seeing what's different, and we'll have a look at all the components and I'll give some sort of first thoughts and impressions of the game. So if we have a look at the back of the box, 200 full colour cards, glorious period artwork, they look very nice. We'll have a look at the cards in some detail. Complexity is medium, number of players 2, suitably for solitaire medium, 30 to 90 minutes for a battle. I would agree with that. Well, having played the first game, that would seem, I think that's fair. I played the first game, both solitaire and 2-player. So we get, if I have a look here, 65 battle cards, 25 info cards, 104 playing cards, 2-player charts and a scenario and a rulebook. This is a game where, like the first one, there's no map. You're playing a game with the cards on the tape, straight on the tabletop. So we'll get the shrink off and we'll have a look. Probably start with the rulebook and then we'll move on to the cards themselves. So into the rules themselves, full colour. We've got an introduction, some changes in blue from the first game. And interestingly, changes in blue, if you've got Storm in the East, which is the first game in the series, it looks like you can use this rule book with the amendments for that as well. Everything looks very nicely laid out. I like the graphic design components, the sort of period font, but the reading is very clear. So we've got here descriptions of the main cards themselves, the leaders, which we'll have a look at, the terrain cards, the unit, combat unit and terrain card abilities. It's definitely, I would describe as a sort of a medium level of complexity weight for the game. There are quite a few, as you can see here in this example here, quite a few gameplay components on the actual, some of the cards themselves. This is very nicely laid out. I like the example here, and you see exactly what's on the cards. A section on setting the game up. Some nice period art. Yeah, it's very nice, very well laid out. Interestingly, it's got a 2021 date on the rulebook, so I'm thinking the rulebook's been done probably for a little while. Then we've got details on the terrain checks, artillery, leader elimination checks, cavalry charge of the horse, breakthrough attacks out of command. So then we're into the scenario introductions. So about, I guess, 12 pages of core rules, and then into the scenarios themselves. We've got, interestingly, the 100 days divides its corps into subunits. Okay. We have, by the look of it here, the different battles, and then the campaigns as well, which is super interesting. Okay, so Quatre Bras, Ligny, Wavre, and Waterloo itself. Interestingly, Waterloo labelled as where Blucher beat Napoleon. Okay, so these look like the actual scenarios themselves with Quatre Bras. Again, very nicely laid out. We've got a little bit of historical context here, and then specific rules, special rules. Okay, so special rules per scenario, and there's some designer notes on some of the sort of thinking behind some of these rules. Very nicely laid out. Looks very readable, looks very clear. Certainly, from the first game in the series, I enjoyed the rulebook very much. I thought the rulebook was very well written and very nicely laid out. Definitely sort of Compass games, level of quality that you would expect from Compass. I do like the inclusion of the illustrations. They're very nice as well. Then we've got onto Linny. Again, some special rules. It could be, I don't know until I've started playing, it could be that they're somewhat, the order of the scenarios makes historical sense. I can see how you would probably do Quatre Bras before Linny. It could also be, and I'll sort of, when I play through these different scenarios, be interesting to see that it could also be that the scenario 1 is the best scenario to start with, of course. That'd be interesting to see if that is the case. Looks like we've got some specific rules for the old guard. Excellent. Specific rules for blue shirt at Linny, as you would expect. Okay, then we're into Wavre itself, and then of course Waterloo, which looks very. I think what I'll do when I play through this game, I'll play through the scenarios in the scenario order. As tempting as it is to jump straight into Waterloo, I think I'll play through them in scenario order. And then we've got some rules about the campaigns, which look very interesting. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay, this is really interesting. So here we've got campaigns for, on first look, we've got the Emperor Strikes June 16th, 1815, the Battles of Quatre Bras and Linny. And I'm thinking you would be playing these games separately by the look of the rules. And then there's some rules to run this campaign, which looks very interesting. And then the Fall of Eagles, the Battles of Waterloo and Wavre. Oh yes, that looks not very well laid out. Very nicely done. This looks very, very playable and readable. Certainly was the case with the rulebook from the first game in the series. Then we're into the 100 Days campaign, June 16th to 18th, 1815. Okay, yep. So the coalition player wins the campaign outright if the French army is broken at Linny. Okay, so that's interesting. This is definitely something that I will try out. I'm very much looking forward to that straight away. Design notes, which is excellent. We've got some interesting maps with very nicely done. Then quite extensive design notes, which is great. I do really enjoy reading design notes from the designers and some of the rationale behind some of the mechanics. Interestingly, in the design notes, the designer is calling out that what I picked up on straight away was the game featured corp-sized units. This game breaks corps down into divisional or multi-divisional units. I made that choice with much trepidation. Be interesting to see how that plays out in the game then. Okay, and now we're into an example of play. So often with war games, Certainly war games where I feel the complexity is at sort of a medium level, I often will play through the sequence of play, sorry, the example of play, with the components in front of me and just go through them by the book to understand some of the mechanics. I think I remember doing that in the first game, so I'll probably do that for this game as well. And they look great. So yeah, this is looking very good indeed. Very good indeed. Yeah, it looks great. Looks nicely laid out, as I've kept saying. Certainly, at first glance, the rules look very readable. There are quite a few mechanics to this game. I think some people will look at. There's always a temptation for wargamers, especially if you see a game that's purely card driven, that you may think it's low in its complexity weight. Introductory type war games, and what I enjoyed about this game, the first game, was that there was enough meat on the bones in the mechanics and historical references for a Napoleonic history enthusiast like myself. But I mean, I also played with gamers who don't normally play Napoleonic games, so something for everyone, I felt. Sequence of play on the back. Game design, packaging design, card art from Christopher, which looks like it's done an excellent job on this. And then we've got the development, rules development, play testing, and of course production as well. So yeah, this looks a great rule book. Looking forward to sitting down one evening, or probably one morning actually, with a cup of tea, of course, being the Brit that I am. And reading through the rule book, then getting the game to the table. So let's have a look at the cards. I've laid out here some of the combat units for the game, just a variety of different cards, just so we can have a look at those for a second. As you can see, they've all got period paintings, and very nice they are too, to represent the different units. We've got Imperial Guard, for example, the Old Guard, Guard Artillery, Young Guard, and some examples of some of the coalition. So the British here, for example, got the Brunswickers down in the corner there. All the card layout, as you can see, very clearly laid out. It's very clear the different gameplay components of the game. This one is the card I've flipped it over to show the disrupted side, and again it's very clear to the user the fact these are disrupted. Yeah, very nicely done. The card quality is very nice. Turn that over, you can see the finish, the cut is very good, nicely laid out, spacious, so there's no cutting into any of the information. Yeah, really nice job, and they look great. When you lay this game out on the table, when I do a review, you'll see, and you can see from the first game, that the game looks, with all the cards laid out, looks very evocative and very thematic. So yeah, great job. Here we've got laid out some of the leaders for the game, and again, very nice thematic period paintings they've put onto the cards. The artwork is different depending on what facing the card has. There's the Duke of Wellington, Napoleon, Ney of course, and again, very clearly laid out. They look great, look very easy to read. Nice and spacious, good use of colour coordination, so very clear that these are the British, for example. And yeah, they look absolutely stunning. Again, in keeping with the theme, and help not only for the gameplay readability, but also that sort of thematic Napoleonic era, which is one of the reasons I love this historic period so much. Again, very nicely done. They look great. The finish of the cards is very nicely done. You could sleeve these if you wished. I didn't sleeve the first game. I don't feel the need to sleeve this game, but if you wanted to, I'm sure you could. And here we've got some of the location cards for the game. So some of these famous historical locations you'll be familiar with. So, for example, Hougoumont there. And again, very nicely laid out, very rich thematic historical artwork used. Again, cards feel very nice, look great. Um, they have both gameplay purposes, you know, whether they're normal facing or reversed, for example. And it's all the layout, all the gameplay functions and the mechanics are very clear. Finally, I thought I'd show just some of the gameplay cards that you get in the game. There's different cards here. These aren't them all by any stretch of the imagination, but just a selection so you can see. In particular, you get these 2 decks of what are called playing cards, and they have gameplay purposes on them, and very nice they are too, very nicely laid out. All the cards, again, very thematic, very rich with the imagery, very clearly laid out. They look absolutely great, and I'll cover all the gameplay implications of these once I've been through and played this game extensively, and I do my review. So this is the some of the player aids that you get in the game, and these look to be the layouts for the different scenarios. So, for example, it's Quatre Bras. There's Ligny, but it's from the sort of the French player's perspective, showing you where your 2 wings are. Ligny has 3 wings, showing the cards that you'll be using, the unit cards that you'll be using, French reinforcements, and then you get, if I just turn this around, apologies, you will see from the coalition side. So coalition players, so again, that's Quatre Bras, so the Allied, William II, for example, cards that will be used there. The reinforcements, of course, Wellington, and reinforcements there, looks excellent. Again, very nicely laid out, very thematic. These are double-sided, so if we turn it over, we turn it round, we have, this looks like Waterloo itself, and there's some play guide here for the turns, and again you can see, for example, the coalition player will be having 3 wings here. I would imagine these are okay, and then the French player, and the same perspective from the French player, and you get, looking at the player aids, I'll show them quickly. We've got a overview of the different abilities for the cards themselves, again nicely laid out. Nice cardstock. Let me just close that. Order of battle, which looks excellent. So yeah, very user friendly. There's Wavre. Very user friendly, very nicely laid out, very thematic. Yeah, so I shall just give some sort of concluding thoughts as to the first impressions of the game so far. So overall, I would say all the components look absolutely great. The graphic design, the layout looks very readable, looks very playable, looks very player friendly. They've obviously thought a lot about new players coming to the game for the first time, and also players of the first game, and that really shines through in the layout of both the rulebook itself, which I think looks excellent, and the cards. And this is a card game. I think I bought the first game somewhat on a whim, just to see how it would play, Napoleon X would play out as a card game, and I was incredibly surprised, pleasantly surprised, and I really enjoyed the first game a lot. And please do check out the review of that game on my channel, and I'll post a link in the description. The rulebook itself looks excellent. I'm really happy with that. Looks very readable, looks very clear. Certainly found that to be the case when playing through the first game. You get a lot of cards. You do need a reasonably good size wargaming table, the same size table that you would play, a standard wargame large map game on. Certainly the table I have that I play most of my war games on is large enough for certainly large enough for a single map game or 2 map game, hex and counter game, and that's what I would be using for this Napoleon's Eagles. You do need quite when you get all the cards laid out, and you can see that in my review of the first game. But it does look like with this game you get more scenarios, historically themed scenarios with the 100 Days campaign, which I'm looking forward to playing through all those. So certainly a lot of content to play through, and maybe you can imagine how the Waterloo's game is going to take the longest of all those scenarios compared to, say, a Quatre Bras, which one would imagine would take a lot less time. So I'm looking forward to playing that and having that flexibility. So yeah, really looking forward to getting this to the table. I really enjoyed the first game. If you are an enthusiast of the Napoleonics, please check it out. If you're new to Napoleonics and you find the look of some of the large map hex and counter games maybe a little bit too much, I highly recommend looking into this series of games because it offers something different in its mechanics and just the fact it's a card game, but also very thematic and very historically rich, which I really enjoy. So looking forward to getting the table. I will do I'll do a full review, but I'll do that once I've played through all the scenarios and I've played through some of the campaigns as well. So my understanding of the game is complete and where it should be when to do a review. But yeah, certainly looking forward to getting this table as soon as possible, I would say. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. As always, if you have played this game or played the first game, always interested in your thoughts, please put a comment in the comment section. And thanks for watching as always.